登嘉楼正在以惊人的速度缩水。每一年的季候风季节，登嘉楼临海地区的居民都在狂风巨浪中逐渐失去他们的土地和家园。
Second last year dah ada akisan sebab dia letak batu ni, tapi tak ada effect. Macam tu saja. Sebab ombak cukup besar. Dah kat sana dah tutup lah. Dah ada orang dah pindah lah. Sebab dia dekat dia tu, tapak dia punya kedai tu waktu perform.
Kalau terus hakis tahun depan macam mana? Pindah
lah.
Kat sini ni okey lah. Mana tambak sikit, selamat sikit lah. Kalau tak tambak, kira suruhan tak ada dah. Suruhan memang tak ada, rumah saya pun tak ada. Itu rumah saya pun dekat tadi. Dah setahun sih. Duh, 1 bulan. November je ni. November, December ni.
而瓜登地区的海岸侵蚀尤为严重，有的地区甚至在1年内被侵蚀了50米甚至更多。
So this beach facing directly to the South China Sea. So this is basically the front line of East Coast beach that facing a monsoon every year. So it is very unique in that sense. So and at the same time it creates these settings almost vulnerable to any changes.
但为什么登嘉楼会发生海岸侵蚀？要说是因为气候变迁和海平面上升等老问题的话，为何在这之前都没有出现过登嘉楼海岸侵蚀的新闻？为什么一些地区的海岸侵蚀在某个节点突然加剧？这前后到底发生了什么？为了了解情况，百个记者询问了几位专家，然而才刚开始访问，学者的回答就让我们怀疑起了自己的耳朵。
Just now you mentioned the 3 main factors.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that 3 things again?
It's a normal issue, it's a slave rise. And then second one is a series of construction on coastal defense. And then the third one is extreme event.
你留意到了吗？一系列的海岸防御设施是造成瓜登海岸侵蚀的3大原因之一。本应该保护海岸的防御设施，怎么反而成为了侵蚀海岸的元凶？我们请来的2位博士给我们上了一堂海洋物理课，这里就用最简单的方法向你说明。海岸边的沙土受到海浪影响，无时无刻都在移动着。而在瓜拉登嘉楼这个地区，登嘉楼河是沙土的主要供给，这些沙土会在海浪的作用下不停地往北流动。虽然海浪会把一片海滩的沙土带走，但同时也会从其他的海滩带来新的沙土。只要沙土的输入和输出能够保持平衡，海岸线就不会有太大的变化。但如果带走的沙子太多，供给又跟不上速度，就会造成海岸侵蚀。所以，海平面上升和极端气候现象都会加快沙土流失的速度，是造成海岸侵蚀的原因之一。但在瓜登，问题不止如此简单。正如埃菲博士所提到的，那一系列海岸防御设施才是让海岸侵蚀变得更复杂的关键。
So having a beach that is slightly eroded during monsoon or northeast monsoon, and then having the sediment come back during the southern monsoon, that is almost natural to Terengganu Beach. However, I think the what we are talking now is basically the worst condition, or I think the condition happens quite rapid and almost extreme at certain level. This is because of construction or development happens in the beach area. So the first development is because of the extension of the airport. So that is the biggest and the starting point.
法兹尔博士所说的机场跑道扩建，是指为了让波音747等大型飞机也可以起飞降落在登州而进行的机场跑道扩建计划。这项计划在2007年通过，在2008年建成，其中有600米就建在了原本的海面上，阻隔了整个瓜登海岸的沙土流动。从河口流出的沙土堆积在了跑道南边，而跑道北边的海滩则因为得不到沙土供应，在持续不断的流失。其中，登嘉楼大学和贡巴达地区首当其冲，单是1年内的海岸侵蚀程度就已经令人啧舌。
So the amounts that we lost is, I mean, to me, it's extreme. So it's more than 50 meters. What happened in UMT, I mean, based on our estimate, we lost 60 meters, but now it's been reclaimed because of the breakwaters and everything. We lost more than 60 meters initially. So I mean the rate that we are talking about is beyond things that we can imagine.
UNT 和贡巴达地区的海岸侵蚀，导致登嘉楼大学损失了几座研究站，多个沿海建筑和道路也陆续遭殃。为了止损，政府在2016年启动了防波堤建筑工作，以减轻海浪的直接影响，留住沙土。但就如我们刚才所说的，沙土本应该是自然流动的。当我们把沙土困在一个区域时，原本靠这个区域输送沙土的海滩，就会因为沙源中断而出现沙土流失加剧、供给失衡的问题。因此，另一个地区的海岸侵蚀发生了。之后，为了保护这些新的区域免受侵蚀，我们又在当地建造新的海岸防御设施，导致更北的区域又出现新的海岸侵蚀，一路补丁，就陷入了死循环。
So every few years, further north will get affected. We are basically facing the issues that is started with the airport extension, but doesn't mean that the airport extension affect the entire beach. But what happens when you come up with this hard solution every now and then, it keep on dragging the affected area further north and even make it the affected area much bigger than the initial area.
It won't continue all the way up to Thailand.
Yeah. If thinking about it is already making me very stressful.
Okay, so there is possibility.
Yes.
为了方便理解，我们在之前的解说中已经简化了不少细节，也浓缩了和多位专家长达数小时的对话内容。事实上，促成瓜登地区海岸侵蚀的原因并不单一，当中还包括多项工程，像是登嘉楼河口防波堤以及肯义湖水坝的建成等，都在不同程度上减少了沙土的自然供给。与此同时，台风和拉尼娜等极端气候现象也愈发频繁，进一步加速了沙土流失。而机场跑道扩建计划所扮演的角色，则像是引发这一连串严重海岸侵蚀的第一张多米诺牌。
If there is no airports, I can say that erosion can still happen, similar to what happens in Dungon, in Marang, but still within considerable amounts of erosion, not that extreme. So I always say this: what happens in Terengganu, especially in Batu Rakit, Ngabat Liput area, this is the worst erosion happens in Malaysia. You can look at statistics. Wherever erosion happens in Malaysia, yes, there is some area can be quite bad, but this is the worst. So you don't get like 60-meter erosion just like that.
多米诺骨牌已经开始倒下，我们现在还有办法补救吗？百个记者日前往登嘉楼进行实地考察和采访的时候，就前往马来西亚登嘉楼大学，直接向研究海岸形态动力和管理策略的艾菲博士请教了这个问题。
So question is how to control it. So the control is we need to understand the fundamental first. How much the budget, time budget we need to dump again to recover, and then how to slow the wave. It is very thanks to the governments. So they make a breakwater or the offshore breakwater to reduce the wave. But unluckily, the ocean still can move forward to the north. The idea is we just control the wave, but we not control the sediment budget. So the idea is reduce the wave, and then to make a sustainability, we need to have a sand to recover the erosions. The best way is nature-based solutions. Yeah, nature-based solution is not say it's a strong like rocks, but it say can be sustained or sustainability.
艾菲博士提出了几个方案，但他们都各有难点。例如，在海岸种植植物的话，能够留住沙土，并且缓冲海浪；但是在沙滩进行大范围的植物种植并不现实。他们为此研究出了能够留住沙土、缓冲海浪的发明，但
But we just propose the innovation, and then how to community or how to government to acceptable or to accept that the idea is again still a good question mark.
So now, GPS basically come up with the idea of having breakwaters along the beach until the next river system, which is Marang. Marang is like about 15 or 17 kilometers away.
The idea is to stop the erosion they put just breakwater until they can. That is the idea. First is budget. Second thing, which part is priority.
登嘉楼基础设施公共事务乡村发展事务委员会的主席哈纳菲莫证实了，政府的计划确实如两位博士所言，就是尽力建到底。
Setakat ini saya rasa yang sangat kritikal ialah di Mengabang Telipuk, Kuala Nerus, 16 buah struktur pemecah ombak dari Telipuk ke Sungai Gong Tuani dan kerja-kerja penyeburan pasir sedang dilaksanakan. Selepas siap peraturan ini sampai situ, dia akan melepak ke depan lagi. Nah, kerajaan kena bina lagi sehinggalah sampai kepada last kali tak tahu di mana, mungkin sampai ke Thailand.
当被问到未来有什么样的办法能够避免另一个类似的情况发生的时候，哈纳菲莫做出了这样的回答。
Setakat ini kerajaan kami ini tidak akan melakukan sesuatu lah untuk buat tambahan ke apa ke, kerana kita tahu gangguan tangan ini menyebabkan alam semula jadi itu dia akan berubah. Jadi kita tak buat. Ada juga cadangan supaya airport tu kita potong balik asal, tambah di depan. Yang ini pun kita memang takut lepas kita potong dia jadi lagu lain pula. Jadi kita kekalkan begitulah. Ini saya rasa projek ni akan sentiasa diteruskan. Pasal bila kita dah sentuh sini, A, B kena buat. Bila sentuh B, C kena buat. Bila dah kita mula A, wajib kita buat B. Kalau kita tak mula A, semua tak payah buat. Kalau di Kuala Terengganu start daripada lapangan terbang dah buat, kita akan buat habis sampai ke Tuan Tang Sei. Kita ganggu sistem yang ada. Jadi gitulah. Tapi yang paling penting saya minta semua rakyat, orang kampung yang berada di kawasan tersebut, di kawasan Pulau Maras, Mengabang Telipuk tu bersabar masa 2 tahun ni. Kerajaan insya-Allah akan membina secepat mungkin.
然而，建造工程难以一次过覆盖整个海岸线，因此艾菲博士认为，计划好每一次工程的进度非常重要。如果是在季候风来临前来不及完成，甚至可以考虑先跳过某些地区，才能够把海岸侵蚀的发生地暂时控制在人烟相对稀少的地方。但这也需要村民们的理解和配合。
Like I say before, you have Tanjung, have a Teluk. So, kalau satu tempat tu dah ada teluk, it can be more stable. The sediment can become again during the calm seasons. But if you put the rock in the teluk, it can be more hosting the impacts. And then keep changing until the Thailand. Just joking. But the community want to save their house. So that's why they want to put the rocks. So how we can stop? So that's why they need to sit down together. Which one is can be what call in Malay we call korbankan satu tempat to be reduced the way first. But janganlah kita buat teluk dekat rumah orang. Marahlah. So actually the community approach normally they need to think together how to control the erosions. Don't put the rocks. At least dump any kind of sand. It can be lost, the sand, but everyone put the sand, everyone put the sands by their own pocket, for example. And then the sediment can be sustained or can be equilibrium. But is it called the B40 or the low income community can put the sand? Still question mark. So they still need government to have them.
其实呢，与其亡羊补牢，不如在开始任何建设前，先做好规划和预防措施才是良策。作为导火线的瓜拉登嘉楼机场跑道扩建项目，引发了一系列海岸侵蚀。虽然目前已经知道建造防波堤会让海岸侵蚀往北蔓延，却已经没有办法喊停，只能够不停地建造下去，期望这侵蚀能够在某处自然缓解。哈纳菲莫议员、埃菲博士和法兹尔博士虽然只是语带诙谐地说出了海岸侵蚀扩散到泰国的可能性，但是呢，话语间却隐约透露着对这不可控情势的无奈。
JPH was suggesting to build a breakwater for the entire stretch. I'm not sure. I mean, at the beginning, I was very pessimistic about it, but actually, there is the only realistic solution. He can come up with all these ideas of soft solution, there's a lots of options, but with the current practice in Malaysia, by understanding the process of how they're doing their work, so I try to tell myself that this is probably the most reasonable solution.
You affect the looks of the beach.
Exactly. But
again, we cannot stop the erosion, my tagline, but we control the erosions. So because the erosion is natural, they can be extremes and then they can be more calm.
It's so dynamic. It's
So dynamics,
change something, everything.
everything's. But the main thing is what kind of the goal you want. If you want sustain the beach, you need to propose this idea. If you don't want to the beach, or you want moving the placement for residents, go ahead on that. But again, we are Terengganu, Bandar Raya Pesisir Air. But how about the beach?